Welcome to Pondering Psalms. Curt and I are going to take a look at Psalm chapter 11. Just a wonderful psalm talking about where we find our hope, where we find our protection. And so we do not need to be afraid. I hope you'll join us.
Welcome to Pondering Passages. I am Curt Austin, my good friend right there.
David Mullins.
David Mullins and I are back together on video because we're in different places. And we are pondering today. We are pondering Psalm 11. And so we have, Dave and I have not really been together very much this summer because he's been out traveling.
Yeah.
Other than our trip together, he's been seeing the world.
Parts of it.
A couple parts of the world and loving that. So before we get started, Dave, I kind of got a little nostalgic since we haven't been together very much, and so I wanted to share with you this. This is a retrospective look. This is our that was our very first. That's Psalm 69, 2 years ago. Lighting was terrible. The sound is horrendous. We kept the Pondering Psalms background the whole time. And then on Psalm 74, was our look. I don't know what in the world's going on with my camera, but it was all blurry. And but I'd stepped it up. Within 5 weeks of doing this, I'd stepped up and gotten my microphone. You brought out your microphone. This is very exciting.
There it is.
And then Psalm I think this is like 119 or something. We were kind of,
we haven't done 119 yet, so.
Or not 119, 109 is what I meant to say.
Oh, 109.
And then this is our last one, see? And I thought it's kind of fun to kind of see where we're going.
It is.
How it's changing over time.
This one's this one.
This one's this one. So Psalm 11, I almost said 111. Psalm 11, Dave, let's just look at it.
I'm a little weepy. Just thinking all the good times.
Oh, I should have put together a montage of all the funny stuff at the end. All of the bloopers. But I didn't take the time. So
they're not bloopers if we do them on purpose.
That's right. They were intentional. Some of them were bloopers.
Yeah.
Take 6, take 7.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
All right. So the psalm for the choir director, a Psalm of David, Psalm 11. You and I have not talked about in detail of this, but we both agreed that we were pretty excited about doing it.
Yeah.
Because we had read through it, we really liked it. So let's go ahead and jump. Let's jump. Trust in the Lord for protection. So why do you say to me, fly like a bird to the mountains for safety? And now here's what I picked up right away.
Okay.
Second part, or I guess line 3 of verse 1, all the way through the end of verse 3. Line 3 of verse 1, all the way to the end of verse 3 is the statement these people are making to the psalmist, right? I mean, this is the chastisement. This is they're painting a dark picture for this. It's a setup then for the second part of the psalm, and that when I first read it, I didn't get that. I got that first line, the fly like a bird to the mountains, was them saying that, and then I jumped right to verse 2 and 3 that this was his reflection, and so when that dawned on me, it changed everything.
If I remember correctly, there is some debate on where exactly the quote ends. That the Hebrew is unclear on exactly where it ends. If it's Psalm 11, I'm trying to think back when I because I spent a whole week looking at this a few weeks ago. We're a little behind.
Yeah, we are.
But I'm thinking that this was the case. But I'm with you. It makes sense to me that this is a statement that they're making. What can the righteous do? Which is a great question. What can the righteous do given the situation that we're in? And it's still a question we can ask today.
So for context, we are over a year out from the January 6th attack on the Capitol here in the United States. And as I was reading this, the foundations of law and order have collapsed. This is what's being challenged to the psalmist. And I thought, wow, we kind of wonder about that too. Everything that's been happening the last few years, Black Lives Matter, the ease. That's a very nice way of saying of our
Yes.
political system.
And the Supreme Court, I'm sure you probably saw this
I did.
yesterday, has how do you phrase it? They keep saying it was struck down, but really they're trying to read the Constitution historically, which apparently by doing that means that a law that New York and other states have had on the books, at least New York has had it for 100 years,
100 years.
goes away.
Yeah.
And so, he says the foundations of law of order, and where it doesn't really matter what side of that issue, the Second
No,
Amendment issue,
not at
you're
all.
on. What we thought was law and order, what we thought was law at least, all of a sudden is gone. And regardless of where you find yourself, all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're in a new place now.
Yeah.
This
And
is
it'll be
different.
and it'll be
This
the
is a
same
different
when
understanding that we have
yeah.
had on that specific issue.
And it'll be the same when Roe versus Wade gets overturned.
Yeah.
It'll just be wait a minute, where are we now?
Although we're not talking 100 years.
No.
That's
No, but
you're
it's law.
thinking it's well established. And
But I like the fact that in the last year and a half, law and order has been kind of a catchphrase
it has
of
been.
a a political a person running for I'm a law and order governor. I'm a law and order, and then other people are going, there is no law and order. It's all collapsed.
Well, yeah,
Um,
and it's like, well, what is law and order? Because it's just changed. What
yeah,
was law and order last
absolutely.
year is different, or seems like it's soon to be different than what it has been. So yeah, so what can the righteous do? What can Well, I want to say what can we do as righteous, but that might be giving myself too much credit. What can the righteous do, Curt?
Well, let's look at two and three though, right? I mean, so they're saying these people. Let's say these people are saying that you don't have any other option but to run.
Yeah, fly like a bird. Find safety.
Because
Fly to safety.
find safety,
Yeah.
because those who are wicked are out there. They're shooting for you,
Yep.
and it's interesting that it's kind of a personal attack, right? They shoot from the shadows at those whose hearts are right.
Yeah.
So I trust in the Lord protection, but you're telling me that that's not enough,
Yeah.
right? You need to get out of Dodge to continue the law and order kind of a metaphor.
Yeah.
Um,
And the fact that they're actually targeting those whose hearts are right.
yeah. So what do you do with that? I mean, how does this then apply? I mean, we've just outlined a bunch of modern day scenarios that are kind of happening, but how does this then apply to us if we take to heart what they're saying? What do we do with that?
Well, it goes back to verse 1. And that's what the psalmist is saying. I trust in the Lord for protection. So why are you talking about all these folks doing all this stuff? I'm not looking to them. I'm not trusting them for protection.
Yep.
I'm trusting in the Lord.
Yep.
And for
Despite all
very good
these things that
reason.
are happening. Yep.
Yeah.
Despite all these things.
Yeah, for very good reason, because he is still in his holy temple. He is still ruling from heaven. He watches everyone closely, examining every person on earth. They think they're getting away with it. They think they're doing it sight unseen, but there is one who continues to watch everything very, very closely.
This is beautiful. I mean, I really love this setup that the psalmist gives us, and then this resolution on the backside of that. It doesn't matter how dark the days, God God is still in control if we let him be,
Yeah.
right? I mean, he's still in control whether we let him be or not, but we can acknowledge that and apply that to our own lives.
Yeah, there is I just finishing up a blog post on this the whole phrase fear the Lord, because I
Mm,
know we've talked about that on these episodes
sure.
before about
Yep.
fear the Lord. And I was listening to something the other day, and they brought up that whatever you fear is what ultimately becomes your God, because that which we fear, we try to structure our lives to avoid that thing, to provide safety from that thing. And so we'll change our entire life so that we can be safe from this thing that we're fearing. And so as I thought through it, it's like, yeah, so whatever we fear is really our God. And Jesus talks about in Luke, I think it's chapter 12, he says, don't fear those that can kill you, and that's all they can do.
Yeah.
But fear the one who can also, and this is a little harsh, but also throw you into hell. But then he tells you not to be afraid, because he says the sparrows are sold, for five
Right.
pennies,
Right.
and even the hairs on your head are numbered. You are more important than the sparrows. And so, in one statement, Jesus says to fear, but don't be afraid, to fear God, but don't be afraid. Uh, and really, in that context, I could see why the Bible talks about fearing God. Uh, because if we fear anything else, that is what will ultimately become our God. And so, for the psalmist, they're telling him basically to fear these folks that are doing all this stuff, and he recognizes that if I'm afraid of them, if I end up fearing them, they are going to take the rightful place of the one uh, who I truly fear. But it's also the one who protects me, who's watching
I love
over me.
that. What's so funny is that last week, gosh, it was just Sunday, just less than a week ago, we were up in Canada, visiting
Hey,
our church.
hey,
Hey, two people watch this from up there. Don't make fun of my friends.
I'm
But
not.
we actually got to go to church, and that was the
Really?
passage that was the passage the sermon was about.
Really?
Was exactly that, about, the whole series has been, living in light and don't be afraid, you
Hmm.
know, and Jesus letting them know that, that you don't have to be afraid,
Yeah,
trust.
yeah,
It shouldn't have to burden you. The fear does not have to hold you down or burden you. The fear of conforming to rules, making sure that you're following everything correctly, or doing it right. But in fact, you're free. You're like the birds who are there. Um, anyway, so what's interesting to me though is in like verse 6. Um, whereas let's go back. They're excuse me, fitting their arrows and bowstrings. They'll shoot from the shadows. And so you've got that risk. But in verse 6, it's God's going to rain down. That's a lot worse than some arrows being shot from the shadows. These
yeah,
blazing coals of burning
yeah.
sulfur, um,
And
punishing the wicked.
and the shadows don't hide them from his gaze.
Mm-mm.
He sees exactly where they are. Uh, and there's always consequences. They might not be immediate consequences, but God tends to work out his justice. Sometimes it takes a long time, but his justice does come. And that's why the psalmist trusts him, because the psalmist knows that God's justice will come, because verse 7, he loves justice. And the good news is the virtuous will see his face. That's why we try to
You
practice virtue.
you've been yeah you had got you had a sermon series not too long ago about the vices, right? The
Yeah.
And so I've been reading that book, The Glittering Vices,
Mm.
which is a really
Good
tough
book.
read. Oh my goodness, it's a deep read. I had encouraged you to really promote it within the church to get people to read it. This is before I started reading it.
Yeah.
And now I say, don't, if you're not in for a deep slog, then don't pick that book up. But it is, as the author has gone into these different vices that we face. She's also giving us a window into the virtues
Yeah.
that can really help us. And it's not like it's a script of you need to be practicing these things. You really continue to seek the face of God, rather than focus. Well, just like what you said, if you focus on something, it becomes your God. You don't want to focus all on the vices.
Well, it's not focus. It's not what we fear. It's our fear.
Well,
So
I mean, but if
if
you
you
say, "Oh my gosh, I'm afraid I'm too proud. I'm so proud. I got to stop being so proud," as opposed to, I need to be giving my life to everything about my life to the presence of God and trusting God. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. Dave's going to say, "Go back and watch my sermon series, please, because
oh,
you're
no,
all
no,
lost."
no, no. Our goal is to practice virtues. And I think what I hear you saying is it's not so much about avoiding the vices. It's more about practicing the virtues,
Yeah.
because you can't do both at the same time. I can't practice greed and generosity at the same time. One's going to win over. So
And so here are the passages. The virtuous will see the face of God.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so the generous, the loving, the compassionate, those really, and I'm a big fan of the fruit of the Spirit, love and joy and peace and patience, kindness.
I love
I love
the
that.
spirit.
I mean, I think if I could get those, I don't have to worry about anything. If I could just
Fruit of the
get
spirit salad.
those, ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Although, can I give you a little fun fact about the
Oh no.
fruit of the
Are you
spirit?
going to change? Are you going to change the way I look at them again? I mean,
Maybe,
okay.
maybe. I've kind of thought this for a while, but I actually was reading commentary that he actually mentioned this, that uh, what it very well could be is the fruit of the spirit is love,
I've heard the same thing.
and that
Mhm.
whole list actually is a definition of
Yeah.
the fruit of love. So the fruit of the spirit is love, and then it's basically this is the description, which I think that matches up with 1 Corinthians 13.
It does,
Really,
and
really good.
honestly, it goes to the fear of God, right? When you
Yeah,
love God, all the rest of these things are taken care of.
yeah,
When you're focused on God, then everything else just drops right into place.
yeah.
So, well, we knocked another one out, Dave. Psalm 11 is in the books, and so
Yes, it is.
for those of you who
Keep score.
keep score. We're ticking off. We only have a few more left, but we'd love for you to come to ponderingpassages.com. You can see our the videos that are there, blogs, podcasts. Everything is available there. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter, not Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. You can be a
I'm on
part of all
Twitter.
of those. Are you on Twitter?
I tweet,
Are
yeah,
you,
once in a while.
are you tweeting about? Sorry, I'm just trying to figure this out.
Just keep clicking.
So be a part of that. Be a part of the conversation. Join us on those platforms. And yes, there's a little gap between our last video and the upcoming videos. If you watched number 9 and you're going, what happened? It's been weeks and weeks, and I've not seen 10, and I've not seen 11. Well, good news for you. Now you know 11 is up. So
Yeah.
12 will be up next, and then we'll get back together. So anything else, Dave?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, everybody have a great week. We will talk to you, who knows, months, weeks, years from now. And we'll see you then when we study and ponder Psalm 12. We'll see you then. Bye. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said
Well,
that.
if people just start out with that premise, I think we would all be a little better off.